Hello, my name is Reverend Jenny Phillips, and I'm the coordinator of Fossil-Free UMC. This is an introduction to the General Conference legislation to screen fossil fuels from United Methodist Investments. When institutions invest money, they buy stocks, bonds, or other investments that generate income. Investment screens simply screen out companies that fail to meet particular guidelines. The United Methodist Church has a long history of screening investments to bring them in line with the social principles. The church already screens companies for which 10% or more of their income is derived from tobacco, alcohol, nuclear weapons, pornography, or gambling. We want to add companies that produce coal, petroleum, and natural gas to this list. Our first petition would amend the Book of Discipline, paragraph 717, to add coal, petroleum, and natural gas to the socially responsible investment screens. Our second petition would amend the Book of Resolutions, section 4071, to add coal, petroleum, and natural gas to the socially responsible investment screens. And our third petition calls on the General Board of Pension and Health Benefits to screen petroleum and natural gas from investments. The board has begun screening some coal from its investments. As United Methodists, we've already named our values when it comes to caring for the Earth's resources. Here's what the Natural World section of the Social Principles tells us. All creation is the Lord's, and we are responsible for the ways in which we use and abuse it. And here's a principle from the Economic Community section that states why our values must shape our investments. We claim all economic systems to be under the judgment of God, no less than other facets of the created order. Here's what John Wesley has to say in his sermon number 50, The Use of Money. We ought not to gain money at the expense of life. And here's how a United Methodist applies these values to fossil fuel investments. Bill McKibben is a United Methodist Sunday school teacher who started a global campaign to call institutions to divest from fossil fuels. More than 500 institutions representing $3.4 trillion have committed to fossil fuel divestment. These institutions include pension funds, insurance companies, universities, and religious institutions. Denominational divestment decisions have already been made in the Church of England, the Episcopal Church, the Methodist Church in the UK, the United Church of Canada, the United Church of Christ, the World Council of Churches, and others. What would this mean for the United Methodist Church's investments? The General Board of Pension and Health Benefits has nearly $500 million invested in 75 of the top 100 oil and gas companies. There are so many companies that they won't all fit on one slide. And despite a widely publicized decision to divest from some thermal coal, we still have nearly $60 million invested in the top 100 coal companies. So to review, our pension board holds stock in 75 of the largest oil and gas companies and 28 of the largest coal companies. Now, with the advent of the fossil fuel divestment movement, financial experts have started studying the risks of staying invested in fossil fuels versus the risks of leaving them. And what they're finding is that looking at past performance, the impact of excluding fossil fuels is negligible. Looking into the future, divesting from fossil fuels may actually reduce overall portfolio risk. What's the point? Why do we want to screen fossil fuels from the church's investments? Well, first, divestment creates the cultural, political, and social will needed to enact strong climate legislation. It also demonstrates a sacrificial commitment to religious, moral, and social values. And finally, it withdraws the moral cover we currently provide for fossil fuel companies. Here's why we need to do this. There are 2,795 gigatons of carbon in proven oil and gas reserves. But scientists say that the upper limit of carbon that can be burned for the Earth's temperature to stay within livable limits is just 565 gigatons. So to live within this carbon budget, fossil fuel companies would have to leave 4/5 of their reserves in the ground, more than $20 trillion worth of reserves. This would cause share prices to plummet. So stable share prices depend on the continual harvesting, selling, and burning of fossil fuels, despite the cost to all forms of life. And if we don't keep to a carbon budget, life on Earth is unsustainable. United Methodist clergy, missionaries, and other leaders are working on the front lines of climate change around the world. It doesn't make sense to fund their retirements with profits from the companies that are destroying God's creation. This is the moment. World leaders are deciding this year whether or not to ratify the COP21 agreement to limit global warming to between 1.5 and 2 degrees Celsius. We must act now. This legislation came from a movement of United Methodists across the U.S. We are clergy and lay people, young and old, racially and economically diverse. We are all deeply concerned about the climate crisis. We recognize that climate change is already changing the face of God's creation, and we see that our leaders need to respond even faster. And we see that the church needs to respond faster. We believe that the church has the capacity and the calling to provide bold leadership in casting a vision for a sustainable future. But we're concerned that our denomination's financial commitments to fossil fuel companies undermine our ability to lead and serve. Please join your voices with the 10 annual conferences and the General Board of Global Ministries that have already endorsed some or all of this legislation. Thank you for taking the time to hear this presentation, and you can certainly learn more at our website. You can email me at the address on your screen, and you can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Many thanks for your time and your service.